Welcome to 40 Below Zero, an international podcast about life with invisible illnesses, hosted by two guys living with multiple sclerosis. Coming to you from the Keystone State of Pennsylvania, I'm your co-host Nix, and with me on this ride is Terry, a Londoner who calls Ontario home. We're so happy you're here with us as we continue to try and normalize a life that is anything but. So let's get into it. What's going on, Warriors? Welcome back to another episode of your favorite MS podcast. I'm your co-host Nick, of course, and with me is Terry. Terry, how are you?
What's up, man? How are you, man?
Doing really good. Two things. First, we got a heck of a guest today. She is a firecracker. I love her. I haven't talked to her in a very long time, so I'm excited to hear what she's been up to. And I think our audience is going to get a lot of information today. But first, tell me about your weekend. You said there was ups. You said there was ups and downs before we started.
Bro, you know how I am, man. There's always ups and downs. Okay, just to get it out of the way, I busted my finger. I just sprained it a bit. It's okay. It's better. But it means a lot, man, when your finger and you're in a chair. You need your hands, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's about it. That's not my pinky story.
Well,
And,
that wasn't much of a story, so you have to. You can't just say I busted my finger without telling us how.
yeah, man. Dude, it was my transfer. Like I was transferring and I have everything. When I transfer, I know exactly where my bars are. So I grab it as I'm sitting down.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those, and I missed it. So the bar went in between my fingers like this and pushed this one really. It hurt at first, but not that bad. And then I'm like, I hope it's not broken. It's not because it didn't hurt. And then I think
Mhm.
an hour later, it started to get sore. So I'm like, shit. So I started icing it, icing it, icing it, and it's good. It's okay. It was swelled up, but it didn't hurt as much. But it's little stuff, but little stuff makes the day harder for me.
Yeah. Um, Often I have my fingers get caught in my wheels. So like
Okay.
when I go to push, sometimes my fingers will not grab the bar part. They'll
Okay.
get into the spoke somehow, and I'll just, so I can imagine, and I mean, it's not to that level. Um, but yeah, that is something, no matter how long you've been doing it, you have to be super aware of. Um, what were you transferring into bed, or were you transferring to the toilet?
Toilet.
Into the toilet? Okay.
Yeah, that's the only place I have bars where I have to go sit down and I use the
Okay.
bars. But dude, I transfer. How many times do I transfer a day? How many times have I done it in the last 2 years?
Right.
It's the one time that I'm like, oh damn,
Yeah. Yeah, but that's it. It's like,
that's it.
I mean, I guess it's the equivalent of anybody else stubbing their toe, you know?
Yo, that's exactly what it is. Yo, respect. That's cool. Now, yeah, I stubbed my finger. Awesome. I never even realized that. I'm like, shit. So that's all. So it's just me coming on here going, I stubbed my toe 2 days ago and it hurts. There you go. Thanks, bro. So that's that first thing. So I went to a jazz festival thing at a
Oh,
restaurant.
no. Nice.
Yeah, it was great. I love live music, man. No matter what kind of music, live music is sick. So
Agreed.
I gotta give kudos to Katrina. She went to the washroom for herself
Hmm.
and she saw the handicap washroom, which is my washroom.
Nice.
And she knows I love this place because the washroom is gold. This is the one where I'm like, it's not a push, it's a wave. Remember
Oh,
that?
yeah. Right.
So she saw on the door it said out of order.
Ooh.
So she was like, and she told me what went through her head. She's like, I can't tell Terry because his anxiety is gonna go crazy. She went straight to the owner of the restaurant and goes,
Okay.
hey, the handicap stall is out of order. And he goes, oh yeah, sorry, the button doesn't work properly. I don't know. He came up with a couple stories. I like the guy, so I'm not hating on him, but he came up with a couple stories. So she goes, well, Terry needs the handicap washroom. He needs an accessible washroom. That's what she said. He needs an accessible washroom. He said, oh yeah. Don't worry. The other one, everything's on the main. There's nothing. Everything's on the main, there's no steps or whatever he said. And she goes, no, 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 no. He needs bars. Does it have grab bars and everything so he can transfer? And then his face went all white. And he was
Oh,
like,
sure, yeah.
oh, which just tells me that he doesn't know what accessible really, I mean, he does, but people think accessibility just means no steps, easy to get to. But
Hmm.
the real thing is the bars, the transfer, the whole 9 yards, right? Even the sink.
Oh, yeah. Hmm. Sink
So
height's important.
so as soon as she said that, he goes, "Oh," and then he goes, "Does he need it right now?" She goes, "No, but soon maybe." And then he's like, "Oh, no problem." And then he went and took care of it. And when I went to the washroom, the sign was still up there, which I loved because I'm like, no one's going to use it now. And the button, everything was fine. Everything was fine. The button worked. There was no problem. So, bro, that only tells me that, they didn't want to clean it. They didn't want an extra washroom to clean, and it really sucks that they take it out on the accessible one.
Yeah.
And the one
Or
guy,
or they were like, ah, we're not gonna have to worry about this. What are the odds a person in a wheelchair will show up tonight? And then there you are, and they're like, ah, now we got to do it.
I was the token wheelchair guy. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
So it bothers me, man, because this happened to me 3 years ago at another restaurant where the
right,
washroom was out of order. And I said, I need to use that washroom. And, you know, and it's not even that I need to use a accessible washroom. What if Katrina needed to come with me? What if she
exactly,
needed to help me? And, she's going to,
exactly.
so yeah, just, little bit of a event moment there for
But
me.
how was the Jazz Fest otherwise?
It was great. Here's another thing. It was great.
Good.
Loud music overstimulated me.
Mm,
Never happened to me before. I feel like now I'm dramatic where I'm like, oh my God, it's too loud. Dude, it overstimulated me. It was like really too much. I enjoyed
yeah,
it, but I was so damn tired where I said, I'm fading. I need to go soon. And I didn't want to ruin anyone's moments. And so I was fading. I needed to go now, but I was like, I need to go soon. I'm fading. I know I'm going to have problems transferring in the car, coming out of the
right.
car. So afterwards, I got in the car. Everything was fine. As I got home, I was dead. I was like tired. I'm like, just give me a few minutes. I don't know who saw in my parking lot who saw me, but there was a guy who was one of my neighbors. He walked right to me and he goes, "Hey, Terry, you need help?" Like that, right?
Wow, wow.
And
Okay.
I got an ego, bro. I've never been through that before. So I looked at the guy and said, "No, no, 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 I'm fine." And then looks at me, he goes, "Get out of here." He came in the car, right- bro. It was cool
Wow.
and not cool because
Yeah, that's a
it was
boundary.
it was I love the guy. He's a cool guy. He picked me up, put me into the chair, and then I was like so thankful because dude, he did save me a lot of spoons. But
Sure.
then after I sat down and as I went home, bro, I was a little emotional because that's never happened to me before where someone actually it made it like kind of stamped it that yeah, I have issues. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to use the disabled word, but you know what I mean? Like people that's what I am.
Well, earlier this season, a few episodes ago, we talked about uh showing more uh not hiding your disability, making an effort to just be you, and that was a huge step,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And you know what's funny? As soon as he put me in the chair,
Hmm.
he turned around and walked away.
See?
You know what I mean? Like he didn't want
I
to, he's
do.
like, there's no big deal about it. And he did that whole thing. And yeah, yeah, it's just a first for me. That's all. I've never been through that before.
Well, how do you feel?
I don't know. I want to see the guy. I haven't seen the guy yet. I want to see him
Right?
again and be like, hey man, I just want to thank you. Uh, and then I want to explain myself. I want to be like, that's not me all the time. I was just really tired. You don't have to worry about me. I don't know. Like, I just want to justify it.
Do you think he even thinks about it as much as you're thinking about it?
Probably not.
Yeah. That's what everybody does. We spend way more time, you know, flipping
Dude,
around things that people aren't even bothered by.
that's me, man. That's me. I do that all the time. At
Yep.
nighttime, I can recollect the littlest things my whole
Yep.
day. Be like,
Well, everybody does that. It's how we torture ourselves. It's like you know, we spend a lot of time caring about stuff that is a blip on other people's radars sometimes. So he probably said to somebody else later that day, "Hey, hey, I helped Terry to, you know what I mean?" Like he's probably like, "Oh yeah." They were like, "How was your day?" He's like, "Well, it was fine. It was, I did X, Y, and Z." And then at night, I saw Terry was getting out of his car. Our neighbor Terry, yeah, he was getting out of his car and he needed a little help, so I helped him get out of his car. Oh, that was nice. And then they went about their day.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
I hear you. I hear you.
But I do the same thing. I'm not immune to it.
Dude, that's who I was in the past. I would help people. I would,
Right.
I was like I said once, I'm the Robin Hood of driving. If there was like all the lights were flashing and no one knew what to do, and people
Right.
were hesitant to move, I would stop traffic and be like, "You go, I would be like,
Yeah.
I'd help people." And in that moment, I felt like, wow,
Now you know what it's like to be helped. It's not that
yeah,
bad.
no, no, it's not, no, just the first time ever. So
Sure.
that's it.
Sure.
Yeah,
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing, buddy.
thanks,
I
bro. Yeah,
appreciate it. This is your therapy hour too.
exactly, man. I know. All right, I'm done. I'm good. I'm happy.
All right. Is our guest in the waiting room?
Yes, I'm letting her in right now.
All right. Cool. Now she's gonna hit the ground running, so you better be quick with the intro.
Yes, yes. Oh, there's an intro. That's right.
Well, you gotta tell tell people who's on the show.
Yo, Patricia, what is going on? You're muted, just so you know.
That means you want to hear from me. You told me about this. Okay, thank you.
I wanted you to come on like a year and a half ago, but I just didn't want to bother you. I'm like, I'll give her some time, because
Okay,
I know
well,
you're going through stuff too, right? So I was just like,
well, life happens, right? C'est la vie, c'est la vie.
yeah. So
That's it.
Nick, obviously, Patricia. Patricia, Nick.
Patricia, it's good to see you. It's been a long time since we were in group together.
Absolutely, absolutely. How you doing?
Doing very well. It's good to see your face.
Good to see you
Um,
guys.
thanks so very much for coming on the show. Um, I, you have an amazing story. So many facets to your personality. You're totally engaged. I love your energy, but I want to talk about all of the I heard all of the legal stuff you've been up to over the last little while. If that's something you would want to talk about. I know that you're impacting and making changes on a huge scale.
Well, yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I, and I appreciate that, but I have impacted laws on a massive scale to the tune of millions. Looking at the impact of incarceration on families, and it's interesting because for me, laws have a way of entwining themselves in people's lives in a way that is unfathomable, especially around incarceration. But what's interesting, and this is taking us on a different note, is while I was doing this work in the States, um, I'm not American. I'm a good old French Canadian, and they like to listen to us. They know we're smarter than them, so they do. Um, seriously. So while I was doing that, changing those laws to keep families together, so don't incarcerate a parent, divert them, provide them support so they can parent properly. We all know we need help with parenting. It's not it's not easy. But
No.
yeah, so while I'm doing that in the States, guess what's happening in Canada? Other legislative change happening at the same time. I didn't realize it is made. Uh, I forget what it says. Medically assisted dying. So that's happening. And when I looked at the video, based on the dates, I was changing things at the same time. I was just like, how interesting. And being the lawyer that I am, a control freak, aren't we all? But lawyers especially, um, I decided I'm going to get myself some made happening, just in case I'm ready for the next travel, next journey. But all that to say is, for me, it feels really tremendously hopeful that as I was doing my work, somebody else was doing something that could be used for myself. And I was
Hmm.
giving that to others while others were giving towards me. And I thought that was
That,
kind of neat.
that is that highlights the absolute importance of activism because you, as an activist, you're speaking for someone who you don't even know, but there's
Hmm.
people out there that are gonna benefit from your voice.
Hmm.
So,
And the same is given back to
mhm,
me from complete strangers who
yep.
Before we
just.
move on, for the maid thing, because I've had a few people now who set themselves up just in case, which I really hate, man, because it's should I be setting myself up? But here's my thing. If you're set up and you have a bad day, how long until you just said, you know what, I'm doing it? They're not going to be like, all right, come on in. We got time today at 1 o'clock. Like, you know what I mean? That's kind of
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah, no, totally. And you know what? I think a lot of people have the same feel, including like very close friends of mine are just like, I think, sometimes because the person's not getting the support they need, they just
Hmm.
decide it's time for me to go. And I totally get that. But that's the importance of having proper coaching around it. Now,
Hmm.
is that there? I'm not convinced. And so I think there's always like really difficult pieces where policymakers have not thought it all through. So then some
Hmm.
people go through. So yeah, there's definitely concern about that, that somebody could just be like, to hell with it. But really, are
Hmm.
they ready?
Now, if you don't mind, for those of us who don't live there, could you explain what you're talking about? I mean, I know you said the words, but
Mhm.
there's a process. Well, I'm not familiar, if you don't mind.
No, I'll share what I do know. I mean, you have to go through two medical doctors to
Hmm.
determine whether you are eligible. Um, and mostly, from what I've seen, is people who are in a lot of pain. And then in Canada, for a bit, they allowed for people with mental health issues.
Mm.
And when I saw that, I was like, that's not going to last. People are not going to go for that. So those are the types of things where you don't like policy changes stuff, but then you also have to be mindful. Some things happen and you know that will not fly at all. And mental health was one of those that got tabled for a greater analysis in Parliament. And I think it'll be a long time before that comes back out. I think that goes back to what Terry was saying is like, what if you just are having a bad day? Well, they're trying to limit access in
Hmm.
terms of people who have mental health issues.
So
Um,
we're talking about legally, by statute, by law,
mhm.
legally medically assisted death, right? That's what we're
Yeah.
And
talking.
dying. That's what
Okay.
it
Mhm.
stands for. Yeah.
Okay.
Medical assistance in dying.
I
Yeah.
got you. Got you.
So yeah. So basically, the once you go through the two doctors, in some places it's very steep to pass. Other
Sure.
places it's not.
Hmm.
Again, there's a lack of continuity, which again goes back to what Terry's saying. What if you're having a bad day? Um,
Yeah.
and well, I think we're all on required to think about that as well. People who are in need, but others who may skip a beat way too quickly.
Sure. Sure. And and that's probably why it's not all over the world that way because
Mm-mm.
there's people that are like maybe, but see that that opens up a much bigger conversation into like um who has the right to determine the story of my life,
I was just thinking that.
so that's deep stuff.
And the thing about it is, if you don't want it, don't take it.
Right. Right.
Yes, if you do, and you hope that you will
Hmm.
be tested properly to make sure you do qualify on the numerous levels. I
Yeah.
think I like I started with. I'm a control freak, so I want to be in charge of the beginning, the middle, and the end. Absolutely. So yeah, so it's I trust in humankind to make decisions for their well-being.
Hmm.
And if they not sure, there's enough support. And I'll talk about Canada. There's enough support around to help you make a determination whether you have friends, family, or none of the above. You just have the state The state's on the hook.
Yep.
They're on the hook to do it right. And
Yep.
it's on us to challenge it if it's not being done well.
So I just saw some stats here. 4.1% of Canadians that die is through MAID.
What?
So, and that's 2023. That's the last time they did the report. So it's probably went up. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't.
Listen, personally, I think it should be available just
Hmm.
because, you know, I can I can tell you how much pain I'm in, but you can't feel the pain I'm in,
Hmm.
and I think same as you, I think any person should be in control of the middle and the end,
Hmm.
you know?
Absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, I trust that there's enough guardrails right now
yeah.
that, you know, you can skate away to the next thing.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think what's beautiful is that I know for myself, um, reaching out to different support groups have enabled me to really open my eyes in so many different ways, in ways where I'm just like, as a policy person, I, you know, try to figure out where other people are at and how can we support them. That's what I do. And it's interesting for me because when I was doing the work in the States, it was very much a lot of some of the pushback was, you know, you got to take it from people where they're at and the people who have are directly affected. And so it's neat to now be in a position where, okay, I am directly affected. And so the need to really go deep in terms of what is it that you as an individual need, but what others like you, and we know MS is like whack, the needs are shift constantly.
Yeah.
I think our laws need to be shifted accordingly. For instance, I, Patricia Allard, got myself a wheelchair,
Woo.
beautiful wheelchair. And then little did I know that once you get that special wheelchair, um, you're good to go for the next 7 years, according to whatever agency in Canada says so. And again, do they actually know? Like you said, I'm I'm in pain. No one can tell. Well, things shift, right? So anyway,
Mhm.
I'm stuck with this chair for 7 years. Then the opportunity to get a power wheelchair, which is where I'm at, comes up. Well,
Mm.
tick, tick, tick. The 7 years is not up yet. It's just
Nope.
been not even a year.
Dude, I'm on this. I get you so well. We're really similar, you and I, other than being Libras.
Or have different opinions on maid. You know, I brought that up for you, especially for you, Terry.
You're awesome.
But yeah, so seriously, in terms of that wheelchair, I'm saying this because it's so important to not be afraid to be surrounded by really good advocates on the ground. And I'm
Yes.
talking agency people know their shit. And anyway, so I have occupational therapist, and she, you know, she had heard, and her staff had been told that this person has fallen so many times. We even heard her while she was on the phone. She fell over, so they were all aware of this. And then that I had this power wheelchair that's foldable, and I, Patricia Allard, is not fearful. I went on the transit, and the transit is nicely set up in Canada, and I know more and more cities do so, so it's accessible. But I didn't know that when you're going on this angle, not this, not this,
Mhm.
but this,
Right.
at full speed ahead, you're bound to go back. Oh my God, everybody around the streetcar went aghast. And it
Uh,
was like, ah. And this cop was across the street who I had seen earlier, ran so quickly. I don't know. Next thing I know, he's right above my face. And he's like, oh, did you
so
hit
you,
your head?
mm,
And I was just like, no, no, 7 years of judo, my head automatically goes in. But that's neither here nor there. It's just the way in which I took it. The reason why I fell over was I didn't have a heavy enough bottom on the wheelchair. So it was interesting to discover. So I share all this with this occupational therapist. She
Mhm.
creates her script, and I get the full support, 75%. I wasn't supposed to get anything because it only been a year. But the reality is things change so quickly. I couldn't use the manual wheelchair anymore in within a year.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's the important piece is our policies, funders, as well as legislative policies set up in a way where there's a flexibility that recognizes not just MS, more and more like increasingly people have like these ailments that are just like atrocious and never changing. But we know MS
Hmm.
does that. So you need
Yep.
to adjust your laws accordingly, right?
Yeah, and that's unfortunately that's the problem because those laws certainly don't move as fast as the MS changes.
No, no. But to me, it's like it's changes, but it's also when people draft their laws,
Hmm.
where is the flexibility? It's
Right.
very much like very cookie cutter, like, okay, this, then this, then this. But no, it's got to have a flow
Now
that
has
laws
now
don't generally have.
now your has your uh using the J word, has your MS journey shifted how you approach your legal mind? Like has your perspective changed because of what you're going through?
That's a really good question. I tend to think I was already spectacular even before I got MS. There's no change to be made. What you talking about, butter?
Meh,
Right.
meh.
Um, Yeah, that's a good question. I feel that I want to spend more time educating people on being advocates for themselves. Just no hesitation in terms of asking questions, directing traffic in your own life. I think that's an important piece that has come from me. Is like the directly affected is that much more empowered to push forward and encourage others to do the same. I don't hesitate. I've noticed in Montreal people when you're trying to put your wheelchair in or out, they like rush to you. Est-ce que je peux vous aider? Un instant, madame. Do you need some help?
Whoa,
Yeah. They're like
watch your
right there.
language.
Hmm?
Watch your language.
I didn't swear, man. What are you talking
Oh,
about? Watch your
oh,
language. Oh, the French. Oh my God. You British people.
what do you British?
Brits. but yeah, so I'm just like in Ontario, I have to chase people down. Yo, you want to give me a hand? Like, dude, I mean, like, seriously, people just walk by, and that's Toronto. Toronto is a very different place, right? It's like the belly of the beast for Canada. It's like the like financial district. People like lost in thought, like there's no tomorrow to think. I think that's pathetic. Having that experience and just like pay attention, look around you. It's called what is it? Of course, I'm blanking on the very important word. But the point is, people need to be more present. You know, to see what people. You see a woman
Hmm.
freaking struggling, trying to like. It's not like I'm not struggling. It's very evident. Yeah, I got to really be thoughtful in terms of how I pull it out myself. My balance, my balance is off. So yeah, I ask people to look around you, and pay attention.
Are you thinking of the word awareness? I know that's silly because there's no way you forgot that word.
Mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Okay.
If you do some of your sits, and I'm one that I skip my sits, but I try to do some. It really helps. It helps you be more attentive to your surroundings, and you know,
Hmm.
does somebody need a hand? It's very easy. Um, yeah, I mean, I think in the MS journey, what is interesting is that I have an 11-year-old. Um, she she was adopted by my partner and I when she was 3. So she's seen me, right? When she first came, I was walking, I was playing soccer with her, and all that. And slowly but surely, I couldn't. I even with a rollator, I tried to play basketball with her, which was very easy because I keep blocking her, no problem. But yeah,
Hmm.
but yeah, now I'm seeing that I had to adjust in terms of do I take my kid trick or treating? There came a time where I was like, oh. it's too chaotic to go with a rollator. So then my partner took that over. But it was an adjustment, right? To no longer be able to follow your kid where she's still, a kid. Everything
Right.
from trick or treating to playing soccer. Now I coach soccer, which the new power wheelchair will make that so much easier for me to do because it goes as fast. It's super fast. I can go up and down the line and be able to yell in a way that comes off really gentle in my yelling because I don't have to yell from afar. Where then I'm look like, whoa, this coach is out of control. But yeah, it's wonderful to be able to do those things, um, and it's interesting. I mean, I think the progression because I had to quit working like very rapidly. Um, I had to get over that piece of you are everything, which is your work. It's not everybody, but for many of us. So finally getting into, okay, this is not me anymore, but really focusing on my kid and focusing on my health. And that was the big piece to finally get to that. That took even a divorce to make me focus on myself and just me and my kid. And so that's been really good in that it makes me want to keep doing things. And for me, sports, that's awesome. That's swimming. If I could swim every day, I would. But I went and played basketball. I don't know. Have you
In the
done
in the
wheelchair
chair?
basketball? Yeah,
I have. I have.
No, but I'm looking forward to it.
I have. It's tough. It's not
it's
easy.
crazy, right?
Yeah. I remember the first thing they made me do is try to dribble the ball around the chair. And the chair wheels are like, they're
Yeah.
extended. It was
Hmm.
really hard. I couldn't do it. I-
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, it is quite the sport. And for me, what was interesting is when I went to this location where it's everything's so like accessible. It's awesome. But I went to play with these guys, and my first time in the chair, and somebody when I registered, the person said they're really crazy. I'm like, okay. I played basketball, so I know that people who don't play basketball or sports might think, what we do is crazy. But those boys, crazy, like crashing, crashing, so much crashing. I'm like, oh my God. And you know what I find out? Two of them are Paralympians. I'm like, dude, what you
Wow.
doing there? So yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Is this in
The
Toronto?
yes,
We
yes, it
probably
was
I
in.
forget the name where I went to the facility. We probably is it near the Danforth? I'm just curious.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, I
it's
went to
probably
the
the
same
same one.
place. That's where I went to. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
crazy, those
And I
boys.
wasn't yeah, they were rough. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, that's fun. I'll stick to the sidelines of soccer. Um, but the other thing I'm interested in is tennis, wheelchair tennis. I have no idea how that will work.
Hmm.
Has anyone done wheelchair tennis?
No, I have not. Yeah, I would
I've
imagine the
done
logistics are interesting on that.
I've
Yeah.
done tennis.
Sorry?
I've done walking tennis.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Me too. But that's why I'm interested in exploring these different sports and see if
Yeah.
there's one that sticks. Because there's something about hanging out with people who play sports. It's there's a lightness to it. Whether it's
Hmm.
because you've been like actually physically active, and then when you chill down, your spirit chills down as well. And I think that's for me, it's like finding people whose spirits are chilled down rather than negative and overbearing, which sometimes does happen. And
Yeah. And there's a
that's
lot of negativity and overbearingness from the disease alone.
hmm
So I fully am on board with what you're saying. Um, Mindfulness practice, meditation, chilling out. It's all what we need to do to survive.
to survive, but to thrive.
That too.
I think it's to thrive as well. I mean, I know for myself, just 20 minutes at the very least, 20 minutes in the water, I'm a whole different being. And it's also the more progressive MS unfolds with, and every day I wake up, something else is not working. I'm just like, dude, that's enough, man. But yeah, so how do you roll with that? Which is just so like, I fucking hate MS.
Well
You
said.
know, I'm just like,
First
when
guest, 3 seasons. First guest, Terry.
Yeah.
I told you.
oh, well, what happened? What happened? Did I
Nothing. I
miss
said,
something?
no, I said you're the first guest in 3 seasons to say it that plainly.
Oh, good, good, good. I'm in good company. But yeah, I mean, seriously, every day you wake up, something else is going on.
Dude,
That's
we had an idea with Patricia that we wanted to do a comedy thing. Remember we were talking about this like a few years ago?
oh yeah,
We
totally.
we have to do. We'll do a show, pure comedy show, something.
That would be fun.
It
That would
would
be
be
super
fun.
fun.
Yeah.
Because oh my God, do we? Speaking of comedy, the other thing, like again, I'm talking about different sports I want to explore, things that will bring me joy. Um, as I try to change some laws in Canada, is I'm thinking I want to do stand up while sit down. Okay, I'll do some sit down.
Yeah.
Um, right there, there you already you got your joke. There's no stand up for me. So yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. There's a because I again is exploring things. All the things I'm sharing, those are things I used to do. I used to be part of a theater company and very much improv, and so it's like something I've already done, and I want to
Mhm.
explore it. How does it feel now that I'm in the chair?
Right.
What's going to be coming out of stand up, sit down, comedy, improv? I don't
Oh,
know. I mean, so much. I mean, I'll get down and dirty with my disability and share what I think of it
I
in a very
think
comical way. So,
I I think Terry, I think we need to talk after the show about how 40 Below Zero can host a comedy night.
dude, she would be outstanding.
I can't wait. We'll put
yeah,
something together.
Why
yeah,
why
you should get a group of people who really like to do the improv thing. You can just do it seated. You don't have to stand up. Most stand-up comedians don't do really much when they're standing and doing their comedy.
you
Yeah.
know, I said it, but you guys missed it. I think Patricia would be outstanding.
I think we would
Okay.
have fun.
Anyway, get it? Outstanding, standing. Okay, never mind. Next.
Thank you,
See,
Terry.
5 minutes of the show already in the books.
Oh, right. What?
No,
No,
I'm
no,
at the
no,
comedy
no.
show.
Oh, okay, okay. I was just like, what just happened?
No, no.
Just happened. But yeah, I mean, there's a fun thing that the first legislative piece I thought of that I thought would be interesting is roll to the beach. And anytime you come, I mean, I'm not saying this is like the best line, but you want to come up with a one liner, two, two word that will be very catchy. And there there are ways in which you can get to the beach in certain places. Aurelia in Ontario, Canada, has one of those meshed uh, meshed carpet that
Mm,
strollers, rollators, wheelchairs could go on without having
hmm.
to deal with the sand, how it just goes
Yeah.
down. So you can't go with a rollator or wheelchair
Hmm.
in the sand. So they have those instead of those beaches, and it goes all the way to the water. Then
Yep.
once you get in the water, as far as I'm concerned, you're fine. You're
Is it
floating basically.
is
Yeah.
it always placed there, or do you have to be like, hey, we have someone in a wheelchair, we need that? Is it's always there?
All summer.
Oh
We
wow.
have we have a beach uh about 2 hours from me. They actually put in a concrete sidewalk straight to the water off the boardwalk, off the handicap accessible ramp from the
Hmm.
boardwalk. So you can
Okay.
roll right from the board straight to the water.
I,
To
I
the
always
water. What's a
Yeah.
water?
I always giggle when he says water. Always.
Oh, I thought you said water. I was a water. Water. Okay. What state are you from? Philly?
Pennsylvania, Philly. Yeah.
Ah, there
Right
you
near
go.
it. Well, not the city, but right outside.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I mean there seem to be different ways in which people try to roll to the beach, and some do very well. Some really it's pathetic. I mean they just they just bring you to where the sand is, and they put a wheelchair sign there. And I'm just like, what about like going through the beach all the way to the water instead of just being here standing on concrete and watching the water flow? I was
Yeah.
just like, so yeah, those are the pieces where you're kind of like, you really need uh, the input of people who are directly affected, because they tell you, I want to reach to the water. Like, come on, really? So how do you make change, right? It's kind of like I'm seeing more and more agencies that are trying to do well by their clients, um, but it's still, it's very othering, and
Mm,
you want to be part of the game. We want to be part of the game and say what we need to say. um, so I don't know, it's one of those things where who's going to let go and allow people who are directly affected lead the way? I don't know. I mean, might have to force it.
This,
You in Philly, you must know about that. Having to force the issue with your powers that be.
yeah, we the MS a lot of people, the MS Society included, hit a big roadblock this year where a lot of things lost their money for research. So um, big roadblock that they're trying to work
Mm.
around now.
Oh
Millions
wow.
of dollars. I had said on a previous episode that $25 million for the fiscal year 25 has not been approved for MS funding, and that's just one small part of an
Wow.
overall. Well, our government's going through some stuff right now. They're trying to call it some growing pains, I guess. I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But yes, having to force the issue is more important now than ever, especially in the States. There's already, I don't want to say the resistance, but there's already groups that are gathering to be like, hey, no, what you did was not right and you need to fix it. So that's already started. So there is hope.
by the
Okay.
way, did you vote yet for Canadian elections?
No, I haven't yet. I
Okay.
know they keep saying advanced pollings. Um,
I I did the advanced pollings 2 days ago.
oh, good,
Proud of
good,
myself.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. So hurry up and do it.
No, totally, totally. And what's interesting is trying to get Wheel-Trans to do
Uh,
this. That's the piece, right?
that's right.
Making
That's right.
sure Wheel-Trans is a support system in Toronto for people with disability who
Gotcha.
require personal transportation, and it could be a cab or it could be a little van, but it is just the cost of
Sure.
I
if you were
miss wheel
raised in
trans.
transit.
I miss it. Over here, it's not the same. But over
Oh,
there in Toronto, if you tell them that you're not going to use a wheelchair, you're going to use a walker, they'll
mhm.
probably send you a cab that has a I can't think of the word either, that has a subscription with Wheel-Trans that has, I don't know, they get paid as
Yes, yes, yes. They get paid as if they were the
Contract.
transit.
contract. Thank you. I don't know, my mind's gone. But
It's
yeah,
okay.
so they'd send a cab and you'd get a personal ride from home to wherever you have to go, which just costs a bus ticket.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, that's a really nice thing. You're not paying the fee of a cab because you can't do transit on your own anymore. But there's also, it's interesting because you need to plan ahead. It's not just like, okay, I'm just gonna walk out right now and grab a cab
Yeah.
or grab the
Yeah.
transit.
Yeah.
So there's much more planning involved for sure, but I can't complain. Toronto is it's very accessible in terms of transit. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that's interesting, talking about really bad policy, I still can't believe that happened. In Toronto, in order to get to the point where you would have like the sidewalks goes a little concave so
The
that
cut. Yeah.
strollers and wheelchairs can go off and on the sidewalk. Um, that was led by a person with disability. She had a walker, heading towards being in a wheelchair. She really lobbied to get that done.
Hmm.
Well, a really smart policy wonk thought that the sidewalks should be also angled. So the Toronto sidewalks are slightly angled, which, you know what? With a rollator or with a power wheelchair that's like not doesn't have a heavy bottom, you're constantly going into traffic
Dude, that's
because of that.
crazy. I hate that.
I know. I was just like, really? And I do believe the person who gave me the information, she's the daughter of what is it, urban planner. So she knows this stuff. I was just like, oh my God, that's a real big mess up, big time. I
Yeah.
was just like, I would like to get the city of, that's the other legislative reform piece I'd like to work on, is get the city of Toronto to redo all the sidewalks.
Wow.
Could you
Wow.
imagine?
Not asking for much, right?
No, no, I'm trying to save them from like lawsuits.
There
I
you
mean,
go.
I'm just come on.
Do you know how many times I'm going and I'm constantly like, I'm like, no, I have to be on the right side because I'm
Hmm.
going left. Yeah, it's just so annoying, man. Sometimes
And
I'm
it's
like, just
and it's
push me.
even worse when the slant is on the side of the arm that's not as strong. It's not your dominant hand. So when you have to push harder with your weaker arm,
Garbage.
I've so many times.
It's
Absolutely,
garbage.
absolutely.
Little
Yeah.
things you don't think about unless you're in that situation, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And Toronto is much busier of a city than like London, where I'm at, right? So Toronto Wheel-Trans, you're saying you have to book ahead. You have to always plan ahead. London is
Mhm.
even worse. You got to do like only 3 days before. It's exactly
Hmm.
3 days before you got to call them and set up your ride. And
Wow.
first come, first serve, because it's not as busy, right? And
Mhm.
then when the city populates, I'm sure they'll change their methods and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I miss Toronto Wheel-Trans, honestly.
Mhm. Okay. No, I do too, and I don't want to mess it up. Sometimes you schedule and then you change your mind, and it's pretty embarrassing when the taxi driver is knocking on your door to tell you your ride is here, and you're kind of like in the middle cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're
Oh boy.
totally not ready.
Yeah. So apparently I lost you lost points
Yeah.
for being a good wheel trans rider. So I've lost points. So I'm avoiding them right now.
Get a 1-star review.
Do
Just
you,
yeah, right?
in the States, do you guys have demerit points for driving? Demerit points, you lose demerit points.
No,
Wait, do
I
you
don't.
lose demerit points or you gain
Well,
demerit points?
well, we don't call them that. We just have points on our license, and if you get
Oh,
so
okay.
many points, your license gets pulled.
Okay. I think here we call them demerit points.
Yeah, we don't.
Mhm.
We're not that fancy.
Mm-mm. But the thing about it is, in terms of the states, or I should just say Philly, what are some of the areas in which you would say at least one, two areas where you think that they're doing well around addressing accessibility?
Well, I can tell you that recently, um, my wife and I and our one of our daughters stayed near the Liberty Bell complex in Old City. So it was like where Independence Mall is and all that. Um,
Mhm.
so it's in Old City, so that there's cobblestone
Oh,
streets
shoot.
still, but
Yeah, right.
the sidewalks. It's a very touristy area.
Mhm.
So the sidewalks are flat and level, no angles to our sidewalks. They're flat and level, curb cuts, very accessible. But you're talking about federally funded um, major important areas of the country. You're talking about the very, where the Constitution was written, where the
Yeah.
Liberty Bell was. So it's very well done for accessibility, but you do run into these very narrow cobblestone streets from time to time.
Mm.
Um, they do for the major areas, the sports complexes, the convention centers, that kind of stuff, very accessible.
Of
Um,
course.
th- they, but they just need improvement for like parking. I mean,
Oh.
You're in Philadelphia. The parking sometimes can be difficult. Sometimes the neighborhoods are old, like when you go into Chinatown, sometimes the sidewalks are getting all torn up because
Mhm.
they're currently arguing about putting a stadium in there. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on, but um the thing that gets me in any, and this is any city I've ever been into, even before the wheelchair, where they're doing construction or renovations to a building and they close the whole sidewalk. And it's like sidewalk
Um,
closed, and you have to go across the street, and now you have to navigate traffic somehow.
I've been
Like,
there.
but that's anywhere, every city does that.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Philadelphia seems to have a lot of it all the time. Like,
I just want to ask, do you guys know when curb cuts started? You make it seem like it's a recent thing.
Oh
well,
no, it's obviously it's not.
Okay.
But I think
well,
it was like 90s.
well, I can tell you this. I just watched
Wow.
the documentary. I just watched a documentary on PBS because that's what I do.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And it was a documentary on the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Okay.
And that was not signed into law until the 90s. So
Hmm.
there was
That's
no
crazy.
there was no requirement for any public building to have any access until the 90s.
Yeah.
Wow.
1990, man. Curb
Yeah,
cuts in Western countries have been mandated by legislation.
Wow.
the
Okay.
ADA.
That's
So,
yes,
well,
yes, the ADA. Got it.
I don't know if it was solely the ADA, but that's in our country.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a movement that
Yep,
builds, slowly builds, and
yep,
92 in Australia.
yep.
92 in
In
Australia.
Australia, yeah.
So
That's just late.
my connection to
Yeah.
this, my connection to the importance of this actually is before me. It's my grandfather. My grandfather was diagnosed with polio when he was 12,
Mm.
and he lived to the age of 88.
Wow.
So I grew up with a grandfather who always he used either two canes to walk,
Hmm.
or he was in his wheelchair. But he didn't like his wheelchair, so most of the time he struggled to walk with the two canes. That was just his pride, I guess. Um,
I get it.
so, but he would tell me many stories about how even the high school he went to was not handicap accessible.
Hmm.
Like, just nobody was thinking about it at the time, because if you were disabled, I mean, my grandfather spent off and on 5 years in an iron lung because of his polio.
Mm.
And he was headed towards being institutionalized, because that's all they did with you back then, according to
Yeah.
him. If you were
Hmm.
sick and you couldn't get around, they didn't change the whole world. They put you in a building,
Yes.
basically a prison without bars.
Mm.
But you had everything you need. They cared for you, whatever. It was an institution. So to him, he saw the transition from everyone with a disability gets warehoused until
Hmm.
they pass, to now the whole world has to accommodate. So he has seen the world open up. So it
Hmm.
was interesting to hear his stories where he was like, now every place I went to would have an elevator, where before, if I wanted to go to get county records, if they didn't have an elevator, I had to climb 3 flights of stairs,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
you told me this where like a lot of companies they don't have to start making something accessible because they've been there for a long time. And once they start making something accessible, they got to make everything accessible
Sure.
for the
Right.
deaf, for the blind. It's not
Hmm.
just a rail. Okay, we're done. We're good.
Yep.
So so they're like, oh, it's a lot of money to do
It's a lot. That's why they don't
everything.
do it. That's why they don't do it. It's literally money, and they're not required to because of the rules. So
Mm.
that's why we
And
need advocates. That's why we need people to change the laws. That's why we need you, Patricia.
I love that we need you. Um, but it's interesting. In Toronto, I don't know about Philly, but in Toronto, most restaurants, their bathroom is in second floor, in basement, which I'm just like, I understand
Hmm.
why, but it's so frustrating. And it's one of those things. Again, being prepared, you find out where the restaurant itself is accessible. Where's the bathroom?
There, one
And
one thing I found to ask, and this is a little tip, because I've done it twice, being out in the chair. When the bathroom was not accessible, I asked if there was an employee bathroom on this floor that I could use.
oh, interesting.
And one of the times the manager was like, "Yep, that's the solution." You know what I mean? Like, we have a bathroom on this floor. Now it wasn't rails and all that. It wasn't set up, but it was at least I could get there,
Hmm.
you know.
yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask, if there's an
Absolutely.
employee thing, if you need to.
I think that's a great idea because that did happen to me as well.
Mhm.
And it's like night and day to actually have that.
Yep.
And generally, people are more than willing to accommodate
Yep.
if they're
He was
given the
he
opportunity
he
to.
didn't even think of it. He was like, "Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, that's right over here."
Hmm.
So,
because they want to go to heaven. No, sorry, never mind. That's my thing. They're like, when someone opens a door for you, they're doing their good deed for the day. It's like, I don't need your help. There's a button there. I can just push the button. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. I was talking about sometimes you think, oh, people should notice that this person needs help, but you're giving another example of
But
overly needing help, not. But yes.
you know how you said earlier, people run to you when you need assistance? I'm also the type where I don't want to embarrass someone. So I feel that's what people do to us. They don't look because they don't want to embarrass us. Because I fell
Mm,
down in the
mhm.
streets once and I got up in my chair. This whole story came up and I came up on the chair. And as I sat in my chair, I put my arms out to be like, I don't need any help because I thought people were flooding to me. So,
mhm.
so I put my hands out and then I got on the chair and I looked around and nobody even came close to me. And the cars just started driving again. And I was just like,
What did you do to the car?
no, they drove off, and I'm like, I'm cool, I'm cool. It was the early days of the chair. I don't know how to act. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. You know
whatever.
what? That's a question I was going to ask you, um, Terry, um, because I know you've been in a chair before I was, and as I progressed towards the chair, I would often think of bowing to Terry Allah on how to be stylish in my chair. I think that's an important piece.
Yo, you're
Being
so cool. You have no idea.
Yeah, no, to feel like adjusting to the new you. So I'm just curious for you, Terry. You know, what have been some of the tools to up yourself as you change in terms of mobility?
You said earlier OTs, they're the greatest because they know before you know because they've been through it all. And
Mm,
first of all, when I got this chair, when I knew I was going to sit in the chair, I'm like, okay, I need to soup up the chair. New wheels, new back, new seating. You know,
mm,
the, try to soup it up. And I actually the other no, it was actually this chair. I cut off the handles, so I don't have handles for you to push me, which is the
hmm.
dumbest thing. Really, it is. But I'm like, I don't want
Okay.
anyone to push me. I don't want to look like I
Yeah.
need assistance and all that stuff. But there's another thing that was suggested to me to get a deep, it's called a deep backing, where it goes, the sides, it doesn't, it extends. So I have support if I lean to my right to the left.
Okay.
But I absolutely said, no, I do not want that. I do not want to look like I'm more disabled than I really am. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
now I have it. It took like 4 years to be like, damn, I should have gotten it 4 years ago. It really is cool. It really supports my seating and
Hmm.
just listen to what the OT has to say. I know we're talking about looking cool, but sometimes you gotta
Yes.
we gotta do
Yeah.
comedy night with you. I know we're gonna talk about it, Nick and I. I know we are, but we gotta do it. And we're gonna
We'll
bring you
come up
back
with
on
it.
just for that, please.
But I think there's something really important. I mean, there's I've had a few shoulda coulda, including like now I'm debating. I'm about to move, and I'm gonna need a new mattress. And there's some different mattresses that you can get where elevate, bring your back up. Supposedly that's helpful. Well, not supposedly, I'm sure it is helpful just in terms of getting out of bed. Um, and it's kind of like, okay, when's the right time, right? Um,
I got a trapeze. I just
what?
got one a month ago. So now I can just grab this thing and pull myself up. And,
Nice.
yeah, it looks like a medical assistant thing, but it helps me. It helps me when I want to adjust on my bed, when I want to get up. I even work out on it. Whatever, So
Well, Patricia, I will say that I asked the same question to when my wife and I were talking years ago. I said, "How am I going to know when I need the next piece of assistive device? Like when am I going to know?" She said, "The minute you ask the question, when do I need that?"
Oh
Or
shoot.
so she said, the minute you say, should I get a bed that raises up to help me? Yes is the answer.
It's probably too
Okay.
late.
I
Yep.
think that's a really good point.
Yep.
Um, absolutely. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, why should I keep struggling? Like, help
Because
yourself, man.
her thought process was a person does not think about something they need to help them until they think they need the help.
Yeah.
So that was her answer. So I hope that
Yeah.
helps.
Well, absolutely. I think that's a very sensible answer. You could just feel it. It's kind of like,
Mhm.
yeah, if you're thinking more and more about it.
I
Um,
I volunteered at a bingo hall once, and it was for MS Society, like back in the day. And someone told me, when do you know when someone with MS needs help? And I
mm,
said, when? He goes, when they're on the floor.
oh, shoot.
He's like, that's how
Shoot.
stubborn.
That's how stubborn we are.
That's how,
Uh,
so yeah.
yeah, a group that my partner was in, um, support group for loved ones, in their assessment, and yeah, I'll take it or leave it. But basically, they said we're generally 2 devices behind.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I was like, okay, that's pretty arrogant, but okay.
Yep.
Um, you agree with that, Nick?
I do because we spend a lot of time on the show here talking with people, and what common theme is ego, and our egos are sometimes our worst enemies because that's the thing that holds you to the standard that nobody else is.
Mm,
Your idea of self is largely generated for the benefit of others because you say, oh, well, I got to maintain this look. I got to maintain this appearance.
mm,
I can't use a wheelchair. I need to be on my like people won't respect me if I'm not standing upright on my own 2 feet. Even if I have a rollator, they're going to judge me. They're going to think I belong in a home. They're going to think I don't. People think that their mental ability has anything to do with their physical mobility.
mm-hmm,
But they forget that like one of the smartest minds of all time, Dr. Stephen Hawking, eventually he couldn't walk. I
mm-hmm,
mean, but people listened to him. But
mm-hmm,
that's in our personal lives, we think people are going to look at us as weak if we're using any assisted devices, especially when we have to sit, when you're like persons like myself who have the option to stand. I mean, I could struggle and walk all day, but who am I doing that for? Am I doing that so
mm-hmm,
that you think that I look stronger or you think that I have more intelligence? Because I can tell you for sure there is a difference in how people talk to me
mm-hmm,
versus when I'm standing or sitting.
mm-hmm.
And it has
Yes.
and it's their perception of how cognizant people can be.
Mm-hmm,
So yeah, I think that statement's pretty accurate. We hold ourselves back from having somewhere in our psyche, we think that if we don't struggle, we're not living appropriately because we're bound to the struggle. If our lives are easy, then people go, "Oh, look, he's got an easy life." And
mm,
then you think you're not contributing and working as hard as you can. When in reality, you're overworking yourself. We're not doing this for leisure. We're doing it
mm-hmm,
because we need to get through the same 12 hours of the day that you are, except we just can't walk it
Yeah.
or we just can't, there's a lot of things that we need help with. So we beat ourselves up subconsciously and say, oh, I can't sit down. I got to keep walking. I got to keep moving. I got to take another step.
mm,
And that
Exactly.
leads us to it's the same in the same vein as the medication we take.
mm,
Some people say, well, if I take the medication, then the disease is real, then the disease is winning. But in
mm,
reality, you're just holding yourself from prolonging to the best of your ability. I mean, because regardless of what we do, it's going to do what it's going to do. We're just trying
yeah,
to slow that down.
mm-hmm,
And we all know that. But we're speeding up, we're shortening the arc if we struggle more than we need to. I'm a big proponent of using all the tools in the tool bag to make your life as, listen, people who can walk go out and buy the best sneakers to walk. People who want to run go out and spend hundreds of dollars on running shoes.
Mm.
If we're going to push or we're going to power chair, we're going to get the best and we're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a tool to get you through the day, but we don't look at it that way. We look at it as I'm failing and the disease is winning.
Mm.
And that's not the truth. The truth is the disease is doing what it's doing. You're just responding to it. And your response sometimes has to be a mobility device, a support group, getting into advocacy, doing, whatever you got to do, changing your life, whatever you have to do. That's you responding to the disease. It's not the disease winning.
Mm-hmm.
That's my 2 cents.
I totally agree with you, because to me
Well said.
the idea is that you're the disease is the disease, and for me it's kind of like I'm gonna keep doing as much as I can, however I can, even if it means clashing with Paralympic basketball players, and you know, licking my wounds and walking away, and finding another outlet. Swimming. That's a great outlet. So yeah, to me that's what it is. It's just like finding ways in which you can motivate yourself to keep going, because I'm irritated by the idea that all they're doing is retarding the progression, and I'm like, can't you do a bit better than that after all these years? Like, come on. I was
They're
just
getting
like,
there.
You know,
yes,
you
yes.
said it earlier. Like, I feel like if I'm not struggling, then I look lazy.
Mm,
Does that sound weird? If I'm
Yep.
not struggling, then I look lazy. So I have to
Yep.
be struggling to show people I'm trying
Yep.
instead of being as comfortable as possible. Anyway, that's it
mm.
for
Uh,
me.
Patricia, it was an absolute pleasure to see you again. I know it's been a long time since we spoke. Um, Thanks for coming on our show today. And we're going to set that
Awesome,
comedy
Thomas.
schedule up.
All right, be well, guys. I quite
Awesome.
enjoyed myself, man.
Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Well, Terry, that was a phenomenal episode. I told you she was going to be a great guest. I miss talking with her.
Dude, what do you mean you told me? I brought her on. Yes, yes. I love her. She's awesome.
We are definitely going to talk about getting some kind of comedy thing. I think we could do that. I think that's going to be great. We'll put that together.
For sure.
Because if you got to be able to laugh at yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So watch out for those transition. Don't stub your toes. And I'll talk to you next week. All right, brother.
I'll talk to you soon, man. Take care, bro. So check us out at 40belowzero.com. That's 4T belowzero.com. Or feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Our email address is info@40belowzero.com. Our personal Instagram account are, for Nix, it's Nix_V713. Or for Terry, it's What's_MS. Awesome. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. We'll talk soon.